Arvoyarns.
Dude, we just ran into a guy, and he was
Well, in a way,
So you were taking forever, and you're like,
I was outside on the stoop, and I, struck up a conversation with this guy who was just going through some stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know if he was homeless, but I think he was.
Yeah. I mean, he was definitely
dealing with life. You know, his
drunk,
girlfriend
alcoholic.
had left him, and he was crying about it, and wasn't sure.
He was
how to start over, you know.
He was so emotional. It was pretty beautiful, really. I mean, like tragic.
Yeah. I mean.
But it was just so raw. I mean, it was like he was like reaching out. It was like he was actively falling deeper into the abyss, and yet as he was falling, he was like, I don't want this to happen to me. And he was like trying to communicate with us, and he was actually quite coherent.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, he kept being like, I don't know if this makes sense. Like, kept saying that over and over again. But like, he actually was like really, he was very self-aware.
Yeah, he was like,
I mean? Like,
this is destroying my life. I don't want this to happen to me. And it was like, wow, he's like watching his own descent into madness, and he's like, I'm trying to make it stop. And he's like trying as hard as he can. He's like there's just so much negative energy momentum in one direction, and it's literally like he's like clawing at reality itself, like trying to like grind it to a halt, and like anything he can do, like as it's so deep now that he's like actively like, he's like, I don't want to do this anymore, and he's like drinking. Like as he says it, and it was so powerful.
Yeah, I mean, he himself said, he's like, you're talking to me like a human being. Thank you for doing that. You know what I mean? Which just goes to the sort of the self-awareness of it. Like, yeah, I had seen him across the road, like asking some people for change, and he came over and we're talking. He had the story of just, I mean, it wasn't just the alcohol per se, but like how to get over, when someone who you were in love with, like betrays you in some way, like he just described.
Yeah, well, it was pretty
meeting this
crazy
woman, like not even that long ago, but he was like, we were in love, it was like for real, but just all the drugs and shit just made it so that they couldn't communicate, and then eventually she left. And he's, in and out of hospital, and yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's like not just quitting drinking, not just figuring out like a reason to live, but like how do you,
How do you then like practice that?
Yeah, like, well, how do you figure out like what to do with like that part of your head that is still like devoted to this person that you can't really spend time with anymore?
Yeah, or any concept really, like, because it was the same thing with the drinking too. He's like, how do I stop doing this? And I was like, and it was, hopefully, fortuitous. It was always relevant in a way. I was talking to my therapist earlier today, and we were talking about addiction, and I was like, for the longest time, I was saying like, don't do this, like, don't do that, and I realized that when you do that type of when you frame it that way, you're constantly thinking about the thing. It's not actually,
it's interesting, yeah. And
so you're actually still like flooding your brain with it, and so it's really difficult to focus on other things. And so I realized ultimately, it's not that I need to ultimately stop doing this, it's that I need to do other things instead, and then shift my entire focus to like just focusing on things that are more important to me, and just being around those things, and just surrounding myself and immersing myself in those things, and just doing more of that, and that will naturally cause those addictions that we have to fall away.
Yeah, especially because if you devote your entire life to not doing something, or like sort of like vetoing this, I feel like it ultimately leads to kind of paralysis, where you don't trust any of the decisions you make, you know, because you keep
they're always
doing exactly the opposite of what you're supposed to do.
This.
Yeah, so it's
this
like, why get out of
antithesis
bed? You know what I mean? It's just gonna go downhill from there, you know?
And on the recent Tyler the Creator album, which is really fantastic, for the most part anyway, he's like, there's this one snippet where I think it's Taco, this like dude in Odd Future is like, what you end up running from, you end up chasing.
Yeah, it's probably true. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I read this book recently. It was like a self-help book, which is not a genre that I usually pick up. It was like given to me.
I'm surprised.
And you know, I think particularly because, you know, they sort of couched their theory like in terms of sort of like quantum physics or whatever. So it's like sort of like, okay, let's see what they're coming up with. And I will say, you know, I had like sort of complicated feelings about the book. One thing that is certain is that it was like a lovely book. Like reading it, like just the lady's tone, like Pam Grout or whatever.
Pam
She
Grout.
just like just brings a smile
Shout out
to
to
your
Andrew
face.
Rabb. He's my colleague. He's re-grouting his sink this weekend.
Well, okay.
He told me that. It was like the last thing we talked
Congratulations,
about before we left for the day today. I was like, so what are you gonna do? He's like, I'm gonna re-grout my sink. It's like, okay.
Suppose it could be Groot. I don't know. I don't know how
It's grout.
Well, it's a pleasure to read her book. Like she just has like a very like, you know, genial tone. Like it's like reading the book like just makes you.
Mean?
Well, it just makes you smile. Let's just say.
Genial means
like
to bring
good
pleasure or
natured.
something.
You know.
Okay. Like a nice grandmother is
Even-tempered.
like genial.
Well, maybe not grandmother, but
No, not good enough.
maybe not quite that.
Not good intentioned enough.
Well, I just mean it because she's like also like dropping all these like pop culture references to kind of like, you know, spice it up a little bit.
You got it.
Grandmas do that too, but not perhaps a stereotype. In any case, so you know, I was like trying to sort of like separate in my mind like the claims being made that like if you do affirmations and, you know, like visualize what you want and like be like sort of like accurate and like detailed with your desires, that this will somehow like let the giant quantum field that controls everything, like, which is also God, like know what to give you back. And that like most people's problems are the result of their incoherent desires, like they're like desiring two different things and
It's
so
a subject
for
of
themselves.
relationship of like how are you gonna project things out.
Yeah, so you know, I am a firm believer in like the idea that we like have very little understanding of how like quantum physics like relates to like our biology and like stuff like that. So for all I know, something like that might work. Whether you can prove it is another thing. But whether you even need to invoke quantum theory is like a totally separate issue from like exactly what you're talking about, which is that like
because you seem to do it no matter what.
yeah, you can't just get trapped in the negative spiral. You know what I mean? It's constantly being like, I'm not gonna drink, or like I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna do this, not gonna do this, because yeah, in some way you're constantly sort of like using those same, you know, pathways of thought.
Yeah, because that was his thing. He was like, I don't want to drink, but how do I do that?
Yeah, the how do I do it? Yeah, totally. It's as if you need to like be aiming towards something else, just point in another direction.
Yeah, just point in another direction.
Altogether.
Sometimes that's all it takes. Just like to save yourself from a fire, just turn around from the direction of the fire.
Yeah, yeah.
Arvoyarns.